Hey, good morning and welcome to Hobby Evolution episode 158. It is Tuesday and Monday, January 4th brought with it the first Cubs mail day of 2021. So Ken in California sent me a box of 1,002 Cubs cards. So that brings the count to 526,914 Cubs cards in the collection. A great start to 2021 with 1,002. I went shopping with my eBay bucks yesterday. I wanted to get cards. I last summer, I got caught into buying autographs, like vintage Cubs 3x5 index cards. I bought a pair of cleats. I was buying some game used bats. So I wanted to get 2021 started off focusing on Cubs cards, and I failed. I was looking for, and I don't want to share the prospect's name at this point until the item arrives. But I've kind of had he's a Cubs prospect, and I've kind of had a minor PC going. So I don't typically go out shopping for, like, say, Chris Bryant parallels, rookies, or autographs. I don't really look for Anthony Rizzo. But there's a few guys that I will, collect. Some of the low serial numbers, the autos, and all that. So this particular prospect is one of those guys that I just kind of latched onto early on, and I've been just picking up autos and different things here and there. I've met him a few times. He's a great kid, great signer. And I was looking for like a refractor auto to pick up, something in the $50 range. And I found an item of this prospect that I couldn't pass down, and it's not a card. It was a little more than I was looking to spend, but I submitted an offer. It was countered, and it was a good counter offer, so I accepted. So hopefully that arrives later this week. So that's what I used. I used all of my eBay bucks, but then I had to pay a little bit more to get the item. But so my first hobby purchase of 2021 is not a card. But I did buy my first hobby purchase, because before I paid for that, before I found that, I did buy a couple flat rate boxes of Cubs cards. So I did buy a couple boxes of Cubs cards before I found this item and bought it. So technically my first hobby purchase was Cubs cards. Jenny, good morning. 2020, no one followed their goals. Right. So Ken in California sent my first Cubs mail day yesterday. So I just wanted to share. The first thing was in a hard plastic, and I looked close. It's an auto, Mike 95. Yeah, 95. That was, a low serial number. So my Hubbard auto. There were some cool 70s cards, like Bill Madlock batting leaders. There was actually like 3 or 4 of these. He's on there with Manny Sanguillen and Ted Simmons. I like this Dick Tidrow because it really complements his Fu Manchu there. Wouldn't want to face him. Love this Topps Heritage Hee-Sop Choi. Cool card. What else do we have? Love Stadium Club. Awesome photo. Topps seems to use like the same Ernie Banks photos for like all the cards. So this photo I haven't seen on a card. It's awesome. And you know what's unique about this? I just noticed this. I think that's a cigarette advertisement in the background. Lucky Strikes. Lucky's taste better. So that's interesting that they would use that photo. And then I have a story about this. 1975 Topps, Oscar Zamora. So Zach, good morning. 2020 didn't live up to its end of the trade either. If 2020 was an eBay seller, JT would have gotten a negative review for sure, a dust farter for sure. Yeah. So I have a good and a bad about yesterday's eBay. The one person who requested a cancel right after the fact, we went back and forth, and there was, I think, a communication issue, but they had bought 3 cards and wanted to cancel. They only wanted to cancel the one purchase, which was a Shaquille O'Neal, which sold for more than I expected. So I don't know, if their motive was, oops, it's not worth $8.50 or what, but they did want to commit to the other 2. So I did. I canceled, the Shaquille O'Neal, relisted, and they paid right away. So that was good. So that ended on a good note. Fartin Duster 48. I actually knew when the auction ended. A lot of those cards were ending at the same time, and as soon as I saw Fartin Duster was the username, and it was a Zion Williamson non-pay. So sure enough, I opened a case. They haven't paid. I checked out their page. They have at least one active auction going right now. I actually messaged them from that auction and asked if they were going to pay for the Zion. They won't. So I don't feel bad for naming them. Fartin Duster 48. So they are on my blocked list. Yeah, they do. And you know what, Jenny? The thing is, when I went to Fartin Duster 48's feedback page, like the last feedback was buyer didn't pay or something to that effect. And of course, it's a positive because sellers can't leave negatives. I wish that if a buyer doesn't pay and a non-payment strike is successful, then that should be an automatic negative. Like that, like if you get a non-pay strike, like, yeah, it affects your buying status. I think if you get so many in a certain period of time, but it should be an automatic negative. It should be an automatic negative, and the seller doesn't have to leave it. I would be happy if eBay, once a non-pay, just a generic didn't pay for item. That's it. Negative, didn't pay for item. And that just shows you, so they can't run up 30 freaking auctions and not pay for any of them. And they can get 30 positives. They all say didn't pay, didn't pay, didn't pay. But you're not going to know that unless you go in and read the actual feedback. So I wish eBay would institute negative feedback automatically once a non-payment strike is against a buyer. I don't know why that hasn't, and this has been going on for what? How long has it been since buyers can't get negative feedback? It's been, I think, at least 10 years, or maybe right around 10 years. Yeah, no, you cannot. You have not been able. A seller has not been able to leave a negative feedback in at least 10 years, I think. Last year, I sold a $50 RJ Barrett. I got a negative for damaged card, but no case was open, no notification. 35 days after delivery, eBay won't remove it. Yeah. All their positives say they do this. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, there's definitely, I think with the influx, eBay has been implementing some new, like, they've really focused on trading cards in the last year because of the influx and the increase, 300% increase in trading card sales in 2020. There was an interview a couple of weeks ago. I know that they're tweaking the return policy, which is definitely defective, and I hope they can do something a little more seller protection. 20 years ago when eBay was still in its infancy, I joined eBay in like late 98, early 99, and I was in it as both a buyer and seller. I was still in high school. I was using web TV, and there was like zero buyer protection. And so a lot of like people, I don't want to, pull some like ageism here, age discrimination, but a lot of, older people and I'm saying 40 plus, 45 plus, they're hesitant to buy on online, really on any website, because of how it was in the early stages of the internet in the 90s. It was like there was no protection for a buyer in the early years of the internet, and that just kind of, they were hesitant. They heard all these horror stories, in the early years of the internet, and then they swore off in online shopping. Now, I think now that the internet's become what it is, 25 years later, people are, coming around to it, but there's still that stigma that eBay doesn't protect buyers. And it's really the exact opposite. eBay doesn't protect sellers. So I think that's where boomer. Yeah, I feel like a boomer. I've been on eBay for 20 plus years. Back in my day, it was, and I have a blog post that I found. I hoard things, but it's cool. In 20 years, I can look back, and some of the things I hoarded, I'm glad I hoarded, because it's fun content to look back on. And one of those was a folder of my early eBay transactions. And what was neat about these early eBay transactions, not only did I sell like 9 Sammy Sosa cards for like $30 or something. Remember, this was 98.99. But also like how you had to do a transaction. Like you had to do like the entire transaction on your own. There was no content management system in eBay. It was the auction. And then once the auction ended, the seller had to reach out to the buyer and say, okay, you owe me, you bought 2 auctions and the total is $11.75, plus $1.50 shipping because postage was cheap in 1998. So you owe me, X amount. You owe me $13. Please send a check or money order to my address. And then a week later, 10 days later, you receive a check or a money order. Then you have to go cash it. If it's a check, you have to wait for it to make sure it clears. And then you send the item. Well, oops. Sellers, and this is where the no protection, sellers could say, well, I never received the payment. And if it's a money order, you're SOL. If it's a check, at least there's a paper trail. But if it's a money order, you're SOL. A lot of people sent cash. Oops, I never got your cash. Or even, somebody could rob your mailbox or whatever. A lot more cash was being mailed back then. So there was like no protection whatsoever for the buyer. And, over the course of the years, eBay recognized that. Good for them. But it kind of went now to the other direction where it's like, what recourse does a seller have? There's limited protection as a seller. And I won't say there's no protection because it's not the Wild West like it was in the 90s. There is still seller protection, and eBay does side. They will, if you take a case to eBay and if you actually talk to a person and they can do some deep dive investigating. I actually had somebody call me, somebody that I interacted with on Twitter. They wanted to call me on something. It was a really high-end sale that they were scammed on. And I just kind of gave my advice. They did call eBay, and it was they got their money back. So eBay does protect the seller, but in times you have to fight for it, and it doesn't always go your way. Like in Jenny's instance, they won't remove that negative. That's what I found to be really discouraging, is their lack of movement on the feedback. But that's a story for another day. I can talk about that later this week. Classic Boomer Bo, ripping on the non-boomers. Yeah. I'm not ripping on the non-boomers. I'm just admitting to my own boomerness at times. So back to Oscar Zamora. So Oscar Zamora, 1975 tops. About 5 years ago, I was on eBay shopping, and I found a game used bat at auction, and I won it for like $10. It was like $15 after shipping. And I was so excited because it's a 1970s game used bat. Oh, wait, I made a mistake. I confused Oscar Zamora with Oliver Zapata. Same initials, OZ. Oliver Zapata played for the Peoria. He actually, at least he was in the Cubs system. And I think that's where my confusion set in. Oliver Zapata played, and I think he only reached maybe double A, single A. Oliver Zapata, he played for the Peoria Chiefs. That's why I recognize the name, not the Oscar Zamora from the 70s. So I have an Oliver Zapata game-used bat in my collection, but fortunately it was only $15. I probably submitted a $50, $60 bid on it because it was a 1970s game-used bat. In my mind, it was a minor league bat from 2012. Oops. So I took the L on that one, but at least he's a Cub, and not some random guy that, you know, the bat is in a storage box somewhere in my basement. But Oliver Zapata, Oscar Zamora, not the same person. Won't make that mistake another time. So that's all I had for today. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Jenny. Good discussion last night, by the way, on 3B Collections page. Herman and Brad were talking about sport lots. We had a good chat going. And actually, I've been a huge proponent of sport lots, and I've talked about it here as both a buyer and seller. And as I'm kind of like, as we're talking it out, as they're talking it out and we're chatting it out, it's like, oh, sport lots kind of sucks. But it is great if you fit kind of, if you fit within the box that benefits you the most. If you're a casual seller, sport lot's not good. If you have a bulk, if a bulk of your inventory is going to be pre-2017, it's not going to be a good place because you're going to find limited sales. But if you're buying new product, if you're buying volume of new product, like upon release, it's great. If you have 100,000 plus cards and they're sorted and organized, it's good. But it's just not worth the time to sort and organize thousands of 80s cards and 90s cards. And I did that. I learned the hard way. I sorted probably 50 to 60,000 1981 to 1986 cards, thinking, oh, hey, these are old enough. They're pre-junk wax. They're still kind of junky, but they're not like the height of the junk wax. I wasn't going to touch, 87 to 92 because there's just so much of that on there. So I went like 80, 81 to 86 and like had no success. In probably 2 years of selling on sport lots, I probably moved 50 cards out of 50,000, and it took hours upon hours upon hours to sort and organize all that. So if you're looking to move like junk wax or 80s and 90s cards, not worth the time, in my opinion. So that's my 2 cents there. And it was a great discussion. Check it out. 3B Collections YouTube page last night. So that's all for today. Have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you tomorrow.